Hello friend, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Becky if you are new, and today is freezer meal prep day. I have not done a big freezer cooking day like this in a long time. My freezer is basically empty of any meals that I have prepared myself, and my sister-in-law is about to have her second baby any day now. And so I am going to prep a bunch of things to fill my freezer and her freezer for convenience. That's my oven preheating. Convenient items. I asked my sister-in-law what she would prefer, and she asked for very easy things that she can just pop in the microwave, air fryer, or oven and not have to think about sides and different things like that. So that's the goal for today. We have breakfast, lunch, dessert that we are going to be prepping. The first thing we're going to start is billion-dollar spaghetti. So it's a take on the million-dollar spaghetti recipe that's been around for a long time, but I have a fun twist that we're gonna do. So I just started 2 pounds of pasta because one of these is gonna be for my family and one of them is gonna be for my sister-in-law. And now in this pot, I'm gonna get 2 pounds of Italian sausage going. The beautiful thing about doing a big prep day like this is I'm gonna use these 2 pots multiple times for multiple different recipes, and I won't really have to wash them in between. I will just rinse them and keep using them. So we'll get the kitchen really dirty today and get a ton of delicious things prepped for my family. Uh-oh, this was breakfast sausage. This is for a different recipe. This is Italian sausage. Since I opened my breakfast sausage, I actually need this breakfast sausage for one of the breakfasts we're gonna make. We are going to make McGriddle muffins. And so I'm gonna go ahead and just get this cooking back here so that when we make our McGriddle muffins, it is ready for us. Speaking of that, we're gonna make a blueberry muffin as well. So I need to get some flour milled so that we can do that first thing. My goal when I do a big cooking day like this is to try to make sure my appliances are working for me. So I have my oven preheated. I wanna get something in the oven so that I can be doing other things while this is cooking, or I can be doing other things while my noodles are cooking or my sausage is cooking. So I'm not just doing one recipe at a time. I'm gonna be juggling multiple recipes at a time. So I hope you enjoy following along and seeing how I think to fill my freezer with lots of delicious things. If you were not with me yesterday, I prepped a whole lot of homemade tortillas because we're gonna make a bean and beef and cheese burrito to go in the freezer. And I also made homemade English muffins, homemade bagels, 2 different kinds, and homemade waffles. We're gonna be turning these into some delicious breakfast sandwiches, but if you don't have homemade ones, go ahead and just substitute store-bought ones. One of my goals for 2025 is to get more proficient with using fresh milled flour, and that is why I wanted to challenge myself to make some homemade English muffins and bagels using fresh milled flour. On that same note, we are gonna make 2 items today that need fresh milled flour. We're gonna make chocolate chip cookies, a brown butter chocolate chip cookie. I probably should have cooked my butter first before cooking that sausage in that pan, because now I'm gonna have to clean that pan, but we're just gonna go with it. And I need fresh milled flour for the blueberry muffins and the McGriddle muffins and the chocolate chip muffins. So I have all my recipes printed here. Let me see how much flour I need so I can get to milling that first. 3 cups. Plus 4 cups. So 9 cups of flour. I looked back, friend, and it has been 6 months since we have done a breakfast, lunch, dinner, and dessert freezer cooking day, and I couldn't be more happy to get in the kitchen with you and get this done on this day. My goal is to try to do this about every 2 to 3 months because that's usually how long these meals will last in my freezer. I don't just cook from freezer meals. I don't make all of these and then we eat all of them right at once. I use these as kind of an insurance policy. So on days I don't want to cook or days I just don't want to messy up my kitchen, I might pull one of these freezer meals out. I also use them as inspiration when I don't want to take the mental energy to figure out what's for dinner. I know that I can go to my freezer and there's items in there that I can pull out and I can let my previous self's efforts do the thinking for me. And it's just really nice. So I'm really glad you're here with me to get all this done. So the wheat that I was just grinding there, that was a soft white wheat because that type of wheat has less gluten in it and it does better with baked goods that don't require yeast
where you don't want a lot of gluten formation. And while my wheat is grinding, I'm going to get a couple other things done. If you're interested in a wheat grinder, I can link the one down below that I have.
A couple tips I like to do when doing a big cooking day like this is I like to make sure my dishwasher is unloaded, so as I have dishes, I can put them directly into the dishwasher. I also like to make sure my garbage is empty so that I can throw garbage directly into my garbage can. Oh no! Ah! Pot is boiling over, that's okay. I already know I'm gonna have to clean my stove after a cooking day like this, so a little bit of water boiling over is no big deal. We're doing 2 pasta dishes today, the $1 billion spaghetti and a Cajun macaroni and cheese. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these pasta noodles baking or boiling right away so that we can use these in our macaroni. Now, when I cook pasta that I'm gonna freeze before I bake, even if I'm just doing a baked pasta and I'm not gonna freeze it as meal prep, I always cook it a little underdone because it is gonna have time to cook and finish cooking in the oven. I don't think I quite have enough onions in my $1 billion spaghetti sauce. So I'm gonna go ahead, oops, I turned the wrong stove on. My sausage is now done for the McGriddle muffins. I'm gonna put one more package of onions in there and get this turned up higher. I'm getting out what I need for the $1 billion spaghetti, and I just tasted one of my macaroni noodles and they are done. So I'm gonna grab out my strainer and I'm gonna go ahead and strain my macaroni noodles. I just prepped the basil that we need for our cheese mixture, and I have got these stems of these basil plants, so I'm gonna go ahead and just stick that in with the sausage so we can extract as much flavor as possible. I will take those stems out before we assemble this pasta, but that's gonna add just a little bit more flavor. For our cheese filling, I've got one 32-ounce tub of ricotta cheese here. And again, we're making 2 of these. And then what makes this absolutely incredible is this Boursin cheese. So instead of using what is more traditional, which would be cream cheese, we are gonna use this. And this is what takes this recipe over the top. This is Parmesan cheese, a lot of fresh basil, mozzarella cheese. I grated this yesterday. We're gonna add some herb salt that I made this summer and a good amount of black pepper. That's it for the cheese mixture. So I'm gonna take a second and get this all incorporated. Well, friends, I just realized I quadrupled the cheese mixture for this recipe. So I might be making a lasagna because I have some no-boil noodles and I have lots of homemade jarred marinara sauce, and I could use that ricotta mixture as a lasagna cheese mixture. I'll just have to see what I end up doing because I realized I made way too much filling. I'm now adding some marinara sauce to our sausage and onions. That has now cooked down beautifully. I realized how I made that mistake is I had already on the recipe doubled the recipe, and then when I went to make this, I then doubled that recipe, and that's how I ended up with a quadruple batch of cheese mixture. I will figure out something to do with that. That is probably the first of a couple mistakes or flops that will happen during this cooking time, and that's just how it goes when you're juggling 14-ish recipes. For myself, I have this glass baking dish that has a lid on it that I can put in my freezer, no problem. For my sister-in-law, I don't want her to worry about getting me a dish or having to do dishes, or my brother-in-law, whoever ends up cooking this meal for her. I'm gonna use a foil pan, so when they are done eating, they can toss it and not have to think about getting it back to me or scrubbing a dish that has cheese baked on it. I'm gonna start by putting some marinara sauce at the bottom of the pan so that the pasta doesn't stick. Now I'm gonna layer on some noodles. I'm gonna use a cookie scoop here, or a muffin scoop.
Well, it smells good in here.
Oh, good. Josh just got home.
As soon as I pulled it in the garage, it was like...
You could smell it?
Yeah, it smells really
Good.
good.
It's gonna be good, I think.
Have a base spaghetti.
Yep, it's called $1 billion spaghetti.
Nice.
I'm gonna spread this out. And just like that, we have one recipe completely done. Plus, I have a bunch of extra cheese mixture that I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with yet, but I'll find something to do with it. It won't go to waste because that's yummy, yummy stuff. This one right here, I'm gonna put my snap-on lid. I can link these down below. I absolutely love these. I don't have to worry about foil or plastic wrap. My freezer meals only usually stay in my freezer for a month or two. My goal is to try to do a freezer meal cooking day every 2 months or so. And so usually we go through our meals within that amount of time. I just had so many marinated meats and things in my freezer I wanted to go through before I did another baking day like this. So if you enjoy this and you're new, consider subscribing because we do lots of fun cooking around here. We don't just do freezer meals, we also do dinner parties and just random cooking on a Tuesday as well. So for my sister-in-law, my sister and brother-in-law, neither of them really enjoy cooking. I don't know who's gonna heat this up, so I'm gonna write the directions on this piece of foil before I wrap it because it's gonna be easier to write. I'm gonna write what it is. I'm gonna tell them to thaw it first because this will bake better if it's thawed. And it can take 2 days-ish to thaw in the fridge. I'm gonna say bake it at 350 for 30 minutes, covered, and then 15 minutes uncovered, or until bubbly and golden brown. And then all if she wants to do is either steam some broccoli or my brother-in-law open a bag salad. Again, I don't know who is gonna reheat this, if it's gonna be her or him, but I want it as easy as possible for them to know what to do with this and what it is. I have 2 layers of foil here. I'm gonna put the foil on first, and then I'll wrap it in some plastic wrap. This is basically room temperature. I'm gonna go pop this in the fridge or freezer. I'm gonna go put both of these in the freezer because they are ready to go. I love doing these big cooking days like this, but if you don't have time to set aside a day or an afternoon like I'm doing, then what I would do is if you were gonna make this last recipe, the baked spaghetti, the night you make it, you could make 2, pop one in the freezer, have one that night, and you can slowly fill your freezer that way as well. So I'm gonna cross off $1 billion spaghetti. Now I have my oven preheated, so I think what we should do next is definitely get the oven working for me. And I have 2 oven things we need to do, but we'll start with just one of them. And I think since I have my sausage cooked already, let's go ahead and do our McGriddle muffins. This is a breakfast item that you could also take for lunch too if you wanted to. When I first saw this McGriddle recipe, it calls for using pancake mix. I don't have pancake mix in my house, but what I do have is a favorite pancake recipe. So I'm taking my favorite pancake recipe and I'm adding the McGriddle things to it, which is, first off, our sausage. I think I'm gonna add the sausage, cheese, and maple syrup at the end. It's not exactly true. My favorite pancake mix recipe doesn't call for maple syrup, but I substituted the white sugar for maple syrup, so we get that McGriddle flavor. So that is 3 cups of our fresh milled flour, 2 tablespoons of baking powder. salt. I'm gonna mix that together. Now we're gonna add our dry ingredients. I'll just make a little well in the bottom of my bowl. I'm gonna mix in 2 eggs. Milk. Maple syrup. Butter. I'm gonna go ahead and mix this pancake mixture up. That is looking a little too runny to me. And I am using fresh milled flour, which can act a lot different in things. So I'm actually gonna add some more flour. That texture looks a lot better. What I'm gonna do is link the McGriddle recipe that I'm getting inspired by down below, the one that has the pancake mix. And if this recipe turns out delicious, I'll write this recipe up as well. I am working on getting really good at cooking with fresh milled wheat, and it's a whole different ball game, and I'm really enjoying it. And so that's why I'm kind of making up this recipe right now. So hopefully it turns out well. I'm gonna add 2 big handfuls of cheese. So what makes this a McGriddle is it's basically pancake mix with breakfast sausage, maple syrup, and cheese. I'm gonna mix this in. Yeah, this pancake batter looks a lot better. It smells good. I'm wanting to spray this really, really well because there's cheese in it and I really don't want it to stick. Because those are in the oven, I'm gonna go ahead and cross them off my list. And then I think what I wanna do next is get something cooking on my stove because we need to cook the beef for the beef and bean and rice burritos. That means I need to get the Instant Pot going with some rice too. So let's see, where are those? I don't even have those on my list, which means I better write it on my list. My menu changed a few times, what I was gonna make today, and I might not have printed off my final one, because I know I typed it up. McGriddle. Okay. I just took these out of the oven. They came out beautifully, and let's give them a taste test. It smells incredible in here. They're not super sweet. You could add probably up to a half a cup of maple syrup to get a little bit more of that sweetness coming through. Or you could also cut these in half and drizzle a little maple syrup over the top. But the rich, because I used a sharp cheddar in this, cheese with a little bit of sweetness and the crunch of the fresh milled flour. And look how puffy they got. They got super puffy. I'm excited to try fresh milled blueberries next. I do need to get some stuff on the stove. While these were finishing baking, I actually took the time to clean my stove and wash or rinse a couple dishes so that we could keep going and I could have a little bit of a cleaner space. I also cleaned the island because it was full. And so I'm gonna finish eating this and I'm gonna grab out what we need for our bean and beef burritos. For the burritos, we are gonna put rice in the burritos. So I'm gonna grab my Instant Pot out so we can get the rice going in the Instant Pot. And I was thinking, because I've been enjoying this McGriddle, I was gonna use a different muffin recipe, but if I just left the sausage and the cheese out and I substituted blueberries into this, the texture of this is fantastic. I'm gonna see if I can basically make like a blueberry pancake muffin using the same recipe, because it's delicious. And I'm loving the texture of it. So I'm gonna put my Instant Pot on manual because I'm gonna toast up my rice. I have found that this just makes a big difference in the overall flavor of the rice and texture. I just have some long grain rice, nothing special here. I am though gonna cook my rice in broth just to add some richness to it and a little bit more nutrients. Butter in the bottom of this pot. That's probably way too much butter. That's probably 4 tablespoons. I probably only need 2 because we're gonna get a lot of richness from our broth. I'm gonna let this melt. And while that's melting, I'm gonna get my beef going. It is a beautiful day out there. I kind of wish I was outside. It's in the mid to high 50s today, super sunny, and I'm wishing I was out there. But one beautiful thing about doing all this meal prep today is that I probably won't cook for the next few days because I will just enjoy the fruits of my effort today, and we will just have all of this delicious food prepped, and I can take more time to spend outside because it's supposed to be like this all week, which is nice because it has been raining forever. So this is 1 pound of ground beef going into my pot. Since I'm at the stove over here, I'm gonna go ahead and dry out my pot that I just washed, and we're gonna get some brown butter going for my chocolate chip cookies, because I need this to cool before we can make our cookie dough. When I was talking to my sister-in-law and asking her kind of what she would like for dinners, this came to mind because it would be an easy lunch or dinner, the bean and beef burritos, because all you have to do is warm them up or open up a jar of enchilada sauce, put some enchilada sauce on the bottom, put your burritos in the middle, top with enchilada sauce, and then you could have enchiladas if you wanted. I'm waiting for all my butters to toast and my beef to cook. So I'm prepping what I need for the blueberry muffins. I'm out of vanilla extract, so I just ran downstairs and grabbed my 1 gallon thing of vanilla so that we can make our blueberry muffins. I think I'm just gonna get everything out that I need. I just put it all away, but I think I can get everything out I need in the time it's gonna take for me to do the next step on my rice and my butter. We have a beautiful toasty color on our rice. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna get a little bit of salt in there, because I like to season every aspect of every dish so that it tastes good on its own. This is a 1/2 cup measure, and I need a total of 4 cups of broth. This Instant Pot is gonna be in my way if I keep it here. I'm gonna transfer it over here, plug it in. All you have to do is hit the rice setting, and that's done and cooking away, and will be ready for us when we're ready for it. So now what I think I can do is check on my beef. And I'm looking to get some really good browning on here. And you know what? I have not seasoned this beef at all with any salt or pepper, so let's do that. The taco seasoning I'm gonna put in this does not have salt, so we definitely need to season our beef. And that looks like it has a nice color on it. There's really good browning on quite a bit of the pieces. So in here, I'm gonna add peppers from this last year's garden, or I thought I was going to, and onions. I'm gonna use the moisture from the frozen onions and peppers to deglaze the bottom of the pan so it doesn't burn while I go make our muffins. I don't know if I would call these, we'll have to taste them when they come out of the oven, if we're gonna call these blueberry pancake muffins. Yeah, that's what they're gonna be, blueberry pancake muffins. 2, 4, I already have the oven preheated, that's why I kinda wanna get these going. And then we can get going on our cookies. Vanilla, oh, baking powder. I should add that before I add all the wet ingredients. Milk. Maple syrup. I think I'm gonna add a 1/2 cup of maple syrup just to see if that helps sweeten it just a little bit. Because I added a little more maple syrup, I'm gonna add to this recipe just a little bit more flour. So it was looking a little bit loose, because I want this batter to hold the blueberries in it. There's our brown butter. I don't want this to keep browning, so what I'm gonna do is transfer this to a bowl so that it can cool a little faster and it's not gonna keep browning. Do you see the brown bits in there? Delicious. So this right here is why I like to have an empty dishwasher when I get started. I'm quickly filling it up, but I can just rinse and throw things in the dishwasher. That does not go in the dishwasher. Neither does that. But all these canning jars, I love opening canning jars because it means all the effort, especially the stuff that's homegrown, of growing it and putting it in a jar was worth the effort. Because we've already used 2, 4, 6, 7 jars today, which is awesome. I might actually go ahead and get the dishwasher started because it is pretty much full at this point from doing all the baking. Other than the cookies, I think we're basically done with the baking. So I think I'm gonna get this started, and then halfway through this cooking day, I can unload it, and then hopefully I can get the rest of the dishes in it, and I can put my kitchen kind of away before I go to bed. It's always nice if I can do all the cooking and cleaning on the same day, and if I am able to clean as I go, I can usually make that happen. I can already see my muffins puffing up in there, or my pancakes. And since I rinsed everything, which I'm not always good about doing, I'm actually gonna do a quick cycle so that in an hour and 10 minutes, this will be done, and I can hopefully unload it and load it with the rest of the dishes we're gonna be using today. So what should we do next? I need to let this cool. My rice needs to finish cooking. I need my brown butter to cool. Let's look at our list. Blueberry muffins are done. You know what we could do pretty quickly and get it completely done, because we already have the noodles cooked, is the Cajun mac and cheese. So let's go ahead and do that next. I need to get some of the, well, not some, but I need to get the sausage out of the fridge. When I was at the store, I went to 3 stores, and I could not find Cajun sausage, or andouille sausage is what it would be called. So what I got is some of these pineapple sausages that we really like, and I'm gonna slice these because I'm gonna brown these first before we put it into our mac and cheese. And I forgot to buy Cajun seasoning, so I just looked up a recipe for Cajun seasoning, and it's really easy. It's very basic ingredients, all things that I have on hand. So we'll end up doing that as well. These are looking good. They're gonna have 1 more minute, and then I'm gonna call them done. Well, friend, we have a little hiccup here. So yesterday I made a ton of homemade tortillas. And I use fresh milled flour, and they are breaking on me when I'm trying to roll them. I make tortillas all the time and I've never had this problem. And so what I think I need to do is work on the recipe when it comes to fresh milling flour and making tortillas. I even did half fresh milled and half all-purpose, and they are soft. I mean, actually that's not too bad. I can roll them like this, but when I try to roll them like a burrito, you can already see it's starting to break right there. So I've got a couple options here. I could switch my plan and not make burritos, and I could roll my beef mixture and my rice mixture like this and line a baking sheet and do more like enchilada style. But I really wanted burritos because they are more like an easy lunch thing. These tortillas are not gonna go to waste, but I'm trying to figure out if I'm gonna use these with my bean and beef and rice mixture, or if I'm gonna go run to the store and pick up some tortillas, because I think for convenience, for me and my family, I think it would be fine if I just turn these into enchiladas, but I was really wanting something that my sister-in-law and brother-in-law could just pop in the air fryer or the microwave and have a quick lunch or dinner or whatever it might be when they need a high protein something. And enchiladas are more like an entire meal than a quick and easy convenient lunch thing. My goal was to try to do all homemade bread products for at least the month of January and potentially February as well, because normally at this time of year I'm doing a pantry challenge where I'm not actually going to the store. But life was so crazy through the holidays with getting pneumonia, having relatives in town for multiple weeks, all the holidays being jam-packed next to each other. It was just so crazy. I didn't have it in me to do a pantry challenge. So my challenge was gonna be to try to do homemade bread products. But I don't think for my sister-in-law, these are gonna work out. So I'm gonna wrap these up. These are gonna make absolutely delicious tacos, or I can even turn them into burritos and grill them on each side, and if they crack a little bit, Josh and I could just eat that with a fork, or I can turn them into enchiladas, or they'll make perfect quesadillas. So these are not gonna go to waste. I'm gonna just keep a couple out for us to snack on. I can make sandwiches out of these, like a wrap, peanut butter and jelly, peanut butter and honey, or whatever it might be. A couple of these I'm gonna leave out. The rest of them I will throw in the freezer and just use them throughout the next couple months. I was trying to decide if I was going to go to the store, or if when Josh runs to the recycle center, if he is going to pick me up burrito wrappers. I think I'm gonna have him do it. I really wanted to look and see what they had, but it will take me too much time, and I know that I can stay busy in the kitchen working on some of the other recipes, and I can finish getting this macaroni done. So now that our peppers and onions are nice and soft and our sausage has some good color to it, I'm gonna add 1 cup of butter. Again, I'm doubling this recipe. And I gotta get my Cajun seasonings in there, which I will do as the butter's melting. This is a basic macaroni and cheese recipe that I am adding the peppers, the onions, the sausage, and now the Cajun seasoning. So this is paprika, garlic, onion powder. I'm gonna add chipotle to this instead of cayenne because I think that smokiness will add some nice yumminess to it. Not too much though. And freeze-dried parsley. Now we've got that classic red. I'm gonna add 1 cup of flour, and I'm gonna use fresh milled flour. Why not? I have it milled. That's our basic roux. The fresh milled flour will add some nuttiness to it and some extra fiber and some extra nutrients. I am having a lot of fun cooking with fresh milled flour. I think it's pretty incredible that with this tiny little machine, we have the power to mill our own flour, but there is a learning curve. So far, our McGriddles came out perfect using 100% fresh milled, and we are gonna taste our blueberry muffins in just a second. I just wanna get this going real quick. I'm gonna add my milk now. I'm gonna add half and half. I think I need to add this whole half gallon. I need to add 8 cups. I can never remember how many cups are in a half gallon, and yes, it's 8 cups. I haven't seasoned this yet, so I'm gonna add some herb salt and a good amount of black pepper. Now, while this is thickening up, I wanna try our blueberry muffins. Or our blueberry pancake muffins. Ooh. That's what the inside looks like. It looks like it has great texture. This is so good. It is the perfect amount of sweetness. I think the half a cup of maple syrup is the perfect amount. Those blueberries are fantastic. I could have added more blueberries. This is gonna be a huge hit in my family, I can already tell you that. This is where I am finding fresh milled flour or wheat just shines so well. This is not dry at all. It has a beautiful nutty flavor and texture. There's like some crunch to it, which is fantastic. Where I need to work on is my next goal is to get 100% fresh milled sandwich bread, and clearly I need to work on my tortillas. But what I've learned so far is that muffins, pancakes, waffles turn out perfect with fresh milled flour. I need to call Josh because I think he's already left and gone to the recycle center. I need to ask him to pick up tortillas for me. I can see that I do not have enough flour to make our cookies. And the recipe that I'm gonna be linking for you for this fresh milled soft and chewy cookie has grams and cups. But one really cool thing about when you're milling fresh wheat, if you weigh it out, is you can actually weigh it out before you grind it. And then you know you have the correct amount. 0. So I need 384 grams of soft white wheat berries. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add my baking soda and baking powder to my flour mixture. I did add salt already. This is for the cookies because my butter now is melted and I'm just waiting for my white sauce to thicken up. And then Josh is now on the hunt for tortillas for me. He can FaceTime me when he's at the store if he's not exactly sure what to get. I think we're gonna go ahead and just make up our cookie dough right now. Since I'm already weighing things, I'm gonna go ahead and just weigh the sugar out too. We need white sugar. I'm gonna zero that out. And now I'm gonna put brown sugar in. Look at how beautiful that color of that cookie dough is. Smells even better. This recipe that I am following has directions on how to cook this from frozen. So I'm only gonna bake up a couple so we can try these, and then I'll freeze the rest of the dough for later when we need a snack. So before Josh goes, I want him to try one of the blueberry muffins. So go ahead and give one of those a try.
You know, I almost snagged one.
Did you? He said he almost snagged one.
Is it this one?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, those are McGriddles. So they have sausage and cheese and maple syrup muffins, pancake muffins, and those are just blueberry.
Jones griddles? Or Van griddles?
Yeah.
I can't not eat this part.
You like it? It's got a good, is it okay sweetness wise?
It's not very sweet, which seems like a good thing.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So that's 100% fresh milled flour, which I think it has pretty good texture for that.
I'm gonna house this thing.
He's gonna eat the whole thing.
Thank you.
I need some to give to your sister. So, I mean, as many as you want to eat, go ahead for that were ours, about half of them.
You want to eat this whole one? And I'll let you divvy up the rest.
Okay.
The cookies probably have surprised me so far the most when it comes to working with fresh milled wheat and making cookie dough. I had very little hope that this was going to have a good texture because I am someone who loves a chocolate chip cookie that's super chewy and just slightly crunchy on the outside. And I was pleasantly surprised. So the little sheet pan, we're going to go ahead and get those baked up. And we are going to do a taste test on those. The rest of them I will freeze for later, and I can't wait to show you what these cookies like coming out of the oven.
I'm gonna go flash freeze these and then I can put them in a Ziploc bag. And this made quite a few. So I will gift half to my sister-in-law and I will keep half, and that will be a good amount of cookie dough in my freezer. And now I can see my white sauce is ready. So I'm gonna turn this off because it's now thick. I have tasted this sauce for seasoning and it's delicious. Now I'm gonna add our cheese. I'm doing today a combination of Monterey Jack and sharp cheddar. I want the flavor from the cheddar and the meltiness from the Monterey Jack. I don't have a bowl right now that's big enough to mix all this, so I'm gonna mix it in this container. I'm gonna put half my noodles in one of these 9x13s and the other half in the other. There's a spaghetti noodle in there. I just took these cookies out of the oven and I thought we'd give them a try. Look at the texture of those. Those look fantastic. They look chewy. They're still soft. They're still a little warm, so they could cool a little bit longer, but who doesn't love a hot cookie out of the oven? They look normal. They look like a normal cookie. A little bit of a crunch on the outside, super soft on the inside, super nutty. If you hadn't have told me that this was fresh milled flour, I would have no idea that this was fresh milled flour. Between the brown butter and the wheat, it's so good. So good. Now, I'm kind of in this waiting game right now. I put this stuff for the burritos in the fridge because I'm not sure when Josh is gonna get here. We still have a lot we can do. I think I'm gonna have some coffee with this. This is how much I have left of this cookie. 3, 4 and a half recipes done. Okay, so we've got quite a few more to go. So let me hydrate. Oh no, we have one more recipe done. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 recipes. We have 6 recipes done. $1 billion spaghetti, Cajun mac and cheese. Oh no, chicken pot pie I crossed off the list last night. I was gonna make that, but I decided not to. And 1, 2, blueberry muffins, McGriddles, and chocolate chips. Plus, all I have to do for the burritos is wrap them, but I'm waiting for the tortillas. What I think I'm gonna do next is work on cooking eggs for the breakfast sandwiches, because I need to cook a lot of eggs. I need to cook a lot of eggs. I just grabbed 4 dozen eggs. I'm gonna cook up all of these eggs, and I would love to get 4 dozen breakfast sandwiches between my freezer and my sister-in-law's freezer, but my oven is still warm. I had turned it off after I took the cookies out, but it's still heated. So I think what I'm gonna do is get going on some of the meatballs, because I'm actually gonna cook the meatballs so that they're cooked in my freezer, so that to reheat them, all I need to do is either throw them in the air fryer, warm them in the oven, or in the microwave. One of them is gonna be cooked. The cranberry jalapeno meatball is gonna be cooked. So that one, let's get going on that one next. We need to make the cranberry sauce. So I'm gonna get that going here. I thought I had cranberry sauce downstairs in my pantry. I don't. So I'm just gonna make some real quick because it's so easy to make. We're gonna cook the sugar, water, and cranberries down until they make a sauce. And while those are cooking, I'm gonna start cooking some eggs over here because it's gonna take me a bit of time. I was thinking what I could do is crack a bunch of eggs and cook them on a cookie sheet. I've seen that done, scramble them, put them on a cookie sheet, and then you cut them out. Should I do that instead of fry them? Let's try it, because I've never done this before. It might be a lot more efficient. I don't think I could get all of these eggs on this one cookie sheet. I think I could get 2 dozen maybe. This would be a whole lot quicker, and I could be doing a lot of other stuff in the kitchen if I can get this to work. I don't want this to spill trying to carry this, so I'm gonna put my cookie sheet in the oven, and I'm going to pour my egg mixture in the oven. There we go, it's level now. I hope that works because that was 2 dozen eggs. My cranberry sauce is done now, so I'm gonna get this turned off. I just let that cook for, I don't know, however long it took me to crack those 2 dozen eggs. Josh just got here to save the day with the tortillas.
Could probably just got one because they were taxed at 24.
That's
You
okay.
did say 25, so I rounded up and got another one.
There you go.
Well, this looks perfect.
Good.
Wow.
That's with fresh milled wheat. Pretty good, isn't it?
That's good. It's got a good crunch to it too.
And texture.
Great texture.
Yeah. Awesome.
Wow.
So it's
Great.
brown buttered whole
Brown butter.
wheat, but it's not dry. Like,
No, it's great.
yeah, very good.
You can make these all the time if you want.
Did you hear him? He said I could make them all the time. So what I'm gonna make right now is some meatballs so that those can get in the oven as well. I actually am gonna go ahead and start this lower oven. So let's put bake, let's do 425. Because these cranberry jalapeno meatballs I am gonna cook, because I'm thinking these are more gonna be for me as like a lunch option. When I want something that's high protein, I can just pop them in the air fryer or in the microwave, and I can have that with whatever I have it with, but it'll be a quick and convenient thing because it'll already be cooked. So here I have ground chicken. I'm trying to recreate the jalapeno cranberry meatballs that you can get at Costco. To that, I'm gonna add garlic. Instead of using breadcrumbs in my meatballs, I'm gonna use some freeze-dried zucchini. Add cranberry sauce. Chipotle powder. Pepper. Salt. I just washed up some herbs. So this is some cilantro. And I'm gonna get this chopped. Now I'm gonna get in here with my hands and mix this all together. Well, I just looked all over and I cannot find my jalapenos. And I know I bought jalapenos to go in those meatballs because they're supposed to be cranberry jalapeno meatballs. And I think my egg is done. It's perfectly cooked. It's not overcooked. I'm just gonna give it a little touch. That didn't take very long at all. It looks nice and tender. I'm gonna let this cool down. And then I wanna get I'm gonna need to cook one more round of those, but I'm gonna let that cool a little bit so that I can take the eggs off there, and then I'll get another round in here. Because I'm gonna need all of those to make the breakfast sandwiches, but I wanna get these meatballs in the oven. I cannot find my jalapenos. I know I bought 4 of them. I don't know where they are. I'm just gonna go ahead and skip the jalapenos since I added the chipotle. And we'll just call it good with that. I have my cookie scoop here. I'm gonna make 2 tablespoon balls. I am not used to cooking with ground chicken. I buy half a beef at a time and I keep that in my freezer. So I usually only cook with ground beef, but I wanted to try something different. So I bought ground turkey and it's definitely a different texture than ground beef. I'm just not used to it. This smells really good though. It doesn't roll quite as nicely. Well, I should say I can get a better shaped ball with just the cookie scoop because the ground chicken is a lot softer. I think this is chicken. Maybe this is ground turkey. Whatever they had at Costco is what I bought. Yeah, I'm not even gonna go back through and roll them. I'm just going to cook them straight from the cookie scoop. Normally when I make meatballs, I go back through and I roll them. I don't think I have to do that with this. Oh, you didn't see, but I did go in and I added 2 eggs to this. And then I added a little bit more zucchini to help kind of keep their shape when they bake. I think that will help.
These cranberry chipotle meatballs are so yummy. They have just a hint of sweetness from the cranberry sauce, but it's balanced really well with the tartness and the smokiness, and the fresh herbs just really, those are so good. So I put those in the oven at 425 degrees for about 15 minutes until fully cooked. Now we're gonna get going on the Greek style meatballs. So in this bowl, I have ground beef, tons of fresh garlic, tons of fresh herbs. I have mint, basil, cilantro, green onions, and parsley. Again, I'm going to substitute the freeze-dried zucchini for breadcrumbs, eggs, coriander, cumin, salt, and pepper. And those are the ingredients. Mix that all together, and this is delicious. I am going to freeze these in actually a patty form, and I'm going to freeze these raw, and I'm going to cook them on the grill when I go to cook them. I really like to freeze these in this kind of like oblong patty form. And if you want to see how I turn this freezer meal in particular into an actual meal, stay tuned, because the following day after this, I actually show you how I'm going to take this particular freezer meal and fully round out the meal and show you how I use freezer meals. This is one of my favorites. I love this. I was going to do a Greek style one that had feta cheese in it. That's what inspired me actually to do this recipe, because I saw a meatball with feta cheese in it. But I didn't know if I would love that. I love this style with the fresh herbs. It is so fresh and delicious. They freeze beautifully. They cook up beautifully on the grill or in a cast iron on your stove, or you could probably cook them in the oven too. And I called an audible. I bought the feta cheese and I thought I'm not going to put the feta cheese in there because I don't know if I'm going to like that. I love feta cheese, but again, I just wasn't sure if I was going to like it in my meatball. So here, the cranberry meatballs are out of the oven. I'm going to put these in a single layer with a piece of parchment paper so I can freeze them like that, and I can pull out individual ones, warm these up, and have these for lunch. That's what I'm thinking I'm going to use these cranberry meatballs for, is an easy, quick, high-protein lunch for myself or anybody who wants them.
Those cranberry chipotle meatballs are delicious, and I'm so excited to have those. So I'm going to cross those off the list. We got our Greek meatballs done. I'm really glad I decided not to add the feta cheese to it. Did I mention that? The recipe I was gonna follow was a new one that called for feta cheese. I love feta cheese, but I don't think I would like it in my meatball. So I decided to just go back to my tried and true recipe. And now let's revisit our beef and bean burritos because we have the tortillas, the counter has been clean, and we have all the components for that. All we need to do is assemble, which is gonna be really, really easy. I have my beef mixture here, my rice here, cheese. I'm gonna add a little bit of fresh herbs. I'll just add it into the rice. And I'm gonna mix that up. And now I can go ahead and start assembling these burritos. I'm gonna start with our bean and beef mixture. It's gonna take me a minute to figure out the ratios of everything. A little bit of our rice. And a good amount of cheese. And there's one. I'm really glad I sent Josh to the store because I would not have been able to get my tortillas to wrap like this. So I guess we're gonna be having things like enchiladas and different types of bakes where I use those tortillas as layering agents. They have great flavor because we have been snacking on the tortillas, but I just wouldn't be able to roll them, I don't think. And I don't think I'm gonna have enough cheese. But luckily cheese is something I keep in my house. And so I can get more cheese if I need more cheese. These are gonna be really hearty burritos. I'm gonna go ahead and roll all of them out. I need another cookie sheet.
This is actually what Josh had for dinner on this night, and he is a huge fan. And this is the first time I'm making like a burrito for a freezer meal. I used to love these growing up. My mom would buy them in the frozen section, and I thought, well, if you can get them store-bought, why couldn't I try making them myself? And so that's kind of why I decided to make these. I've been wanting to try this for a long time, and they're delicious. The key, though, it is best if you do thaw them overnight in the refrigerator before you microwave them. The problem is if you try to microwave them or air fry them from frozen, to get the inside fully warmed and cooked through, not cooked, it's already cooked, but fully warmed through, the tortilla really dries out. So just like with the breakfast burritos, I've mentioned this before in other freezer cooking days, I will pull out a couple breakfast sandwiches and let them thaw in the refrigerator overnight, and then we'll have those for breakfast. You want to kind of do the same thing with these, just so that you're warming them up and they're not frozen on the inside. You're just going to get a better texture on the tortilla. But these were so good, and you could really do any sort of filling you want in these. You could do chicken, beans and rice. You could do just beans and rice. You could do whatever you like in a burrito. Go ahead and do this. Any kind of cheese, or skip the cheese altogether. I wanted to try it with ground beef, but I think next time I'm going to try it with chicken and see how that goes. But I'm sure it's absolutely delicious. At first, I was doing one at a time, and I realized that was not efficient. And so then I started laying out a ton of tortillas and getting a bunch of them rolled up at the same time.
I'm gonna go pop these burritos into the refrigerator because what we're gonna do now is make our breakfast sandwiches, and I'm gonna wrap everything in plastic wrap all at one time. So these are just gonna be in the fridge like this for just a minute while we make a ton of breakfast sandwiches. So I have my English muffins and my bagels. I was gonna make all of them into breakfast sandwiches, but my family is loving the bagels. So I'm gonna only probably end up making about half of them into breakfast sandwiches. If you don't want to make them yourself, don't worry about it. Just go buy your favorite bagels yourself. And I need to find a serrated knife. Did I already put it in the dishwasher? Okay, let me wash my serrated knife real quick. And I'm not 100% sure if we're gonna love these eggs that I prepped in the oven. We're gonna use all the ones that I already prepped, but I might have to end up cooking a couple on the stove. I'm gonna make my own honey mustard here as a sauce. I did check with my sister-in-law to make sure she likes honey mustard, and her husband both do, because I wanna make sure that they're gonna like what I make for them. And when I was laying in bed thinking about these breakfast sandwiches, as one does, you know what would be really good? on a breakfast sandwich is to put pesto, mozzarella cheese, an egg, whatever protein of your choice you want. That looks so good. I like to do about equal parts mustard to honey. And I always make my own honey mustard. This will last in the fridge a very long time. So I probably won't use it all today. So whatever I don't use, I'll just pop in the fridge and use it. Because then you know you're getting real honey. Because if you read the back of honey mustards, a lot of times they're made with other sweeteners, not just honey. And that was so easy. So that's why I do that. So now what I'm gonna do is start cutting these bagels in half. And these bagels I made with fresh milled flour, and they are so good. They are definitely a winner. I did do 50% or 1 part fresh milled flour to 1 part white bread flour. So I wanna see if I can wrap up the ratio, but to start, for my first time using fresh milled flour for bagels, these turned out really, really well. I was also thinking putting a sun-dried tomato pesto on this would be incredibly delicious. I'm gonna have to play around with that next time I make breakfast sandwiches. And I do try to be really even with the honey and the mustard all the way to the edges. Now the really cool thing about doing a sheet egg like this is I can find one of my cookie cutters that fits it exactly, cut it out, and put it right there. Maybe I could do the bigger one. Yeah, I can actually. I want to get more eggs cooking, even though I'm in the middle of making those sandwiches. So I just whipped up another 2 dozen eggs. And then I have 1 more dozen after this, and that's all the eggs I have in my house. So I will make as many breakfast sandwiches as I can with the eggs that I have on hand. I just added a piece of sharp cheddar cheese to each one of my sandwiches. And then here I have some ham that's thinly sliced. Josh and I went to a coffee shop that had the most delicious breakfast sandwiches, and they put ham and cheese on theirs. And that's why I wanted to do ham on this one. I had this ham sliced super, super thinly so that it would have good texture. And I think this is gonna be absolutely delicious. I love cheddar cheese, ham, and mustard together. Plus with a little bit of sweetness, the honey is adding to this. It's gonna be fantastic. The way I reheat breakfast sandwiches to get the best texture is the night before, or usually sometime in the week, I'll grab a couple of these out of the freezer. They thaw overnight in the fridge. It doesn't take more than overnight to get these to thaw. And then I either heat them up in the air fryer or I heat them up in the microwave, and they're delicious. Absolutely delicious. One thing that I can't have enough in my house are prepped breakfast sandwiches and prepped breakfast burritos. If I make them, they will get eaten. I'm gonna put 2.5 slices because this is very thinly cut ham. And then I'm gonna put just a half a piece of cheese on top of that so that when this heats up, maybe I'll put 1/4. Bread will stay on top of it. And I think I'm gonna put a half a piece underneath the egg. So it's gonna be a little piece of cheese, egg, piece of cheese, ham, and then a little piece of cheese. So each one of these is gonna have 1.5 slices of cheese. I gotta go get more cheese out of the fridge.
Now here you can see that I am making way more breakfast sandwiches and items than Josh and I, plus my sister and brother-in-law, can go through in a reasonable amount of time. And that's why I go ahead and I freeze a bunch of them so that we can pull them out when we need them. But if you are not interested in prepping so many that you need to freeze them, then go ahead and you could, on a weekend or a weekday or anytime you're already meal prepping a breakfast sandwich, go ahead and meal prep 3 or 4 of them. You already have all the ingredients out, wrap them up in some plastic wrap or some parchment paper, put them in some sort of airtight thing, pop them in the fridge, and these will keep in the fridge for a few days as well. So if you didn't want to, make, I think I end up making, you'll see how many I made. I can't remember. I think it was like 40 of them or something like that. I ended up running out of eggs. And so I made as many as I could with the amount of eggs I had, which was totally fine because having the English muffins and the bagels prepped in the freezer is great too, because my family has been really enjoying the English muffins and bagels just on their own, toasted with some butter or cream cheese or whatever it might be. If you don't want to make, all these breakfast sandwiches and have them in the freezer, just make enough that you can enjoy for the next few days. And if you already have the ingredients out, then you don't have to messy up your kitchen or take the time to get all the ingredients out, make your sandwich for just one time and then have to put it away. You can do a little bit of extra. So the combination of the maple cranberry bagels with the egg, the cheese, and the ham was absolutely delicious. And I was a little bit worried about the texture of these eggs that I cooked in the oven because I had never done that before. I had just seen it done lots and lots of times. And after I did it, I was worried about how they were going to reheat, because I normally just pan fry the eggs, do an over hard egg on a skillet, and then use that for a breakfast sandwich. And so I was just not sure how these oven baked ones were going to be, and they were great. Josh thought that they heated up well. They weren't rubbery. I thought they were good. I'm not the biggest egg fan just to eat eggs, and so I was worried that I wasn't going to like the texture, and they were pretty good. I do think though, I like the pan-fried egg better than the oven egg, but the convenience of the oven egg definitely is very, very nice. The biggest thing though is not to overcook the egg. So the first round I cooked the eggs a little bit longer. The second sheet of eggs, I cooked way less and the texture was better. I shouldn't say way less, but I cooked them less and they weren't overcooked. And so that's, I think, the key. And it's hard to say how long to cook them because it's going to depend on like the size of your sheet pan and how many eggs you put. And maybe next time I would actually whip in some milk or something like that to get them even a little bit lighter and fluffier. But overall, they were really good. And I probably would do this again, but I might not cut them into rounds. I might actually cut them into squares just so that there's less excess egg. I did end up putting some of this egg in the fridge and we ate it as like a scramble, but there was quite a bit of excess eggs, too much eggs that we were going to be able to eat through the scramble. So I ended up giving them to my chickens. My chickens love eating eggs. And so it didn't go to waste. They can use a high protein item like this and it is good for them, but I don't necessarily want to buy eggs and then feed my chickens eggs. So I think in the future, if I was to do a sheet pan egg like this for meal prep, I probably would cut them into squares just so that there's not as much waste. So these are the English muffins that we made. I normally toast English muffins before I make breakfast sandwiches out of them. I wasn't going to do it because I was getting tired and I didn't want to do that step. So you see me assembling these egg sandwiches. I get them all assembled and then I think, no, I'm going to take the time. I'm already in the kitchen. I'm going to be happier if I toast them. So I do actually end up taking the eggs and the cheese off of these English muffins. I toast them under the broiler and then I put the eggs and the cheese back on. These are just egg and cheese McMuffins. I don't end up putting any other protein on them other than the cheese and the egg. And it was delicious. It's actually the first time I've ever made a breakfast sandwich meal prep where I don't add like bacon or sausage or something like that to them. And we really have been enjoying these as well.
I was gonna make breakfast sandwiches out of these waffles, but I ended up running out of eggs. So I just made breakfast sandwiches out of the English muffins and the bagels because I know my family loves those and my family loves waffles as well. I'm gonna throw these in the freezer and now I just have waffles prepped, which is fantastic. I have ham, cheese, and egg here, And then some of them have 2 eggs because I ran out of the ham and I didn't feel like cooking up any bacon or sausage. And all the English muffins just have ham and cheese. And I did put 1.5 slices of cheese on each one of these English muffins. I got the kitchen counter clean again. And now what we're gonna do is do our marinades. This is one of my favorite things that I put in my freezer, and I had made a ton prior to the summer, so I didn't need to make any for quite some time. But we are gonna make 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. And let me tell you what we're gonna make. And this is easy, 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 easy. We're gonna put everything in a bag, put the marinade inside it, and actually 2 of them are kind of like a salad dressing. So we're not only gonna get a marinade for chicken, sorry if you can hear my dogs drinking water. They just got back from the groomer, so they're thirsty. So 2 of them are a salad dressing. So I'm actually gonna make the marinade. I'll show you how I'm gonna do it so that we can get salad dressing prepped for this week. And so I really don't have to do much cooking for the rest of the week. Let's see. We're gonna do maple, mustard. I normally do a honey mustard chicken that is so good. Chicken breast. I always put if it's breast or thighs on here. And I'm gonna do one that is maple mustard thighs. I'm gonna do 2 of each because it doesn't take any more time to do twice as much marinade as it does to make one. I'm already gonna have all the ingredients out, and a lot of these are super, super easy. This next one is ranch chicken. Again, this is gonna be breast, ranch thighs, smashed. That's what I called this. This is my mom's recipe, and I called it this when she would make it because she would smash it. But it's like a lemon Worcestershire. It's so good. And this is gonna be breast. And then I need 3 more bags. And definitely write on your bags because I can't tell you how many times I forget to write on my bags thinking I will remember. So the part that takes the longest for this is going to be to prep the chicken, which is not gonna take very long. I'm going to go ahead and I think I have 4 of these. These really do make things a lot easier. I didn't use these for a long time. If you've been around here since the beginning, I did not use these. These were a gift. And it's like one of those things I never would have bought myself. But now that I have them, I absolutely love them for when I put stuff in bags. Normally I do this project in the middle of our big cooking day. But I never got a moment. Normally there's like something simmering on the stove or in the oven and I can get this part done, but there was just stuff happening the whole time. So I'm getting at this at the very, very end. Oh my goodness. No, I bought lemons. Okay, I was gonna say I need lemon juice for this. It's getting a little late, so I'm getting a little tired. So what I usually do is I actually like to prep all the chicken before I start making the marinades because I like to cut off any excess fat or anything like that. The chicken breast, I like to cut really thinly, and I like to get all of my meat in my bags, and then I work with the marinade. So what I was just about to do was make a marinade and then put the chicken, but I don't wanna go back and forth from making marinades to dealing with the chicken. I wanna deal with the chicken once, and then I'll make all the marinades. I'm gonna work with the chicken thighs first. Yeah, it was stunning. I got all of the chicken processed, so I'm gonna take a second to sanitize my counter real quick. And I did keep all the trimmings that I trimmed off so I can make broth out of the trimmings. If you're wondering why I just threw that paper towel down on the ground, it's because my garbage can is right there. So I didn't actually throw it on the ground. Just gonna get this sanitized here. And now what we're gonna do is go ahead and start making our marinades. And I'm gonna start with, I gotta put the right bags, creamy Italian. Well, I guess I'm gonna have 2 creamy Italian chicken thighs, even though one of these says breast and one says thighs. I messed that up, but that's gonna be okay. So I'm gonna make that in this jar. And I think I already grabbed everything I need for this recipe. The reason I am making this marinade in this jar and not in one of my bags is because I want to use this as a salad dressing this week. And so I'm going to mix it in the jar and then pour it over top of the chicken. That was a high quality olive oil. This is white distilled vinegar. The creamy part is mayo. I have some of this Italian dressing mix that my sister turned me on to, so I'm gonna use this as the salt and part of the seasoning component. I'm gonna add my herbs. This is homegrown, home freeze-dried parsley. This recipe calls for a touch of honey to balance out the vinegar. A lot of garlic. Parmesan cheese. And I just made a huge mess, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to mix all this together. My sister turned me on to this when we were in Oklahoma. I can link it for you down below. And my mom got it for me in my stocking this year, so I'm gonna add that. And that is, oh, I need pepper. That is our creamy Italian dressing. After I shake it, we'll give it a taste test. I've been really wanting just salads and things that are crunchy and fresh. And so I'm excited to have this dressing in my fridge and one more we're gonna make in just a minute. Wow, that is delicious. That has a beautiful tang to it, but I think the tang is a little too tang. So to balance that, I'm gonna add a little bit more black pepper and a touch more honey. And I think a little bit more of this Green Goddess dressing base. Now I'm gonna taste it again. Always taste and adjust, taste and adjust, taste and adjust as needed. So good. Wow. That is unlike any dressing I have ever made before. One thing that's really important when doing this is once you close your bag, make sure you really mix up the chicken and that the marinade is on all parts of the chicken. And there's not a piece of chicken where there's two pieces of chicken stuck together, because usually when I pull this out of my freezer, I just stick it in the fridge and then it goes straight from the fridge onto the grill. And sometimes there's two pieces of chicken that are stuck together and a part of the chicken wasn't touching the yummy flavors. This might be my new favorite salad dressing. That is incredibly delicious. The next one I'm gonna make is a substitution from what I originally was gonna make because I don't have any maple syrup. So I'm gonna go to my classic, which is honey mustard chicken. This is one of Josh and I's favorites. It's so good on the grill. The honey kind of caramelizes and the balance of the mustard, yum. And I'm going to use the rest of this honey mustard that I made for the sandwiches. I'm just gonna get that in there. And that's not gonna be enough. So I'm gonna grab some more mustard here. And this one I've made so many times, I'm just gonna kind of eyeball it. Since this jar is half empty, what I'm gonna do, not right now, but later, is I'll fill that up with honey, pop that in my fridge, and then I have homemade honey mustard so that I know it's real honey in my honey mustard that we put on sandwiches and things like that. I really wanted to try the maple mustard. I thought that that would be really good. I've never thought to do that before, and that could be delicious. This one only takes a second, and I'm glad I'm doing two. I don't know if my sister-in-law wants any of these marinated meats. I will text her a list of what I made, and if she wants them, she can have one of each of these four that I'm making. If she doesn't want them, that's fine. I will throw them on the grill and they will not go to waste. And I have about 4 chicken breasts in each one of these where the chicken breasts are cut in half. And I have about 8 chicken thighs in each one of these. And I like that because I only cook dinner probably 3 or 4 times a week. And then for breakfast and lunches, a lot of times we just eat what we had for dinner as meal prep. And I really like to have extra chicken, or if I did pork, this is a really good recipe where you could do 1 bag of chicken and 1 bag of pork, and then it could really change up the flavor. I didn't do that this time. The way that I'm changing this up is oh, I forgot the oil. The way that I'm changing up this recipe is just using chicken thighs versus chicken breast. But I will cook more than I need for that night's dinner, and then I can eat it for breakfast if I want, or if I want to have a salad for lunch, I have some prepped chicken. This next one is going to be a salad dressing and a marinade, and I'm gonna make a homemade ranch dressing. I've never used ranch dressing as a marinade before, but I think it would be delicious, so we're gonna give it a shot this time. So we're gonna do equal parts buttermilk, and sour cream. If I can get it in there without making a mess. I was a little light on the mayonnaise, so I'm going to add a little bit more sour cream. Pepper. Fresh garlic. Onion powder. Garlic powder. I'm going to add this dressing base again. Some homemade freeze-dried parsley, and some herb salt. Oh, I forgot the vinegar. Oh, there wasn't supposed to be vinegar. Was there supposed to be vinegar in this one? Yes, just a little bit. Now we take, oh, that sour cream is not mixed up in there at all. If you've never made homemade ranch dressing, it is delicious. I didn't make a ton of this. I think I'm gonna go ahead and just use this all as the marinade because I have that other dressing. If you had pesto, you could also add pesto to this and have a homemade pesto ranch chicken, which would be amazing. But I am all out of that at this moment. And now we have 2 more main dishes done. And this last one is probably the easiest, except for the fact I have to juice some lemons. I'm gonna start with a good quality olive oil. And I'm just gonna make it right in the bag because I'm not gonna use this as a dressing. A lot of fresh garlic. A lot of Worcestershire sauce. And now I'm gonna juice 2 lemons into each one of these. And we officially have all of our recipes done, I believe. We're gonna have to check my master list, but that was a lot. I haven't done one of these big cooking days, and I think it's been 6 months. I've done some breakfast prep. We've made breakfast sandwiches. We've done some other things, but to do a dinner one, like this, it's been a while. I felt like I had to kind of get back into the routine of things. I think I'm only gonna do 1.5 lemons. And then I'm gonna run these lemon, at least one of them, down my garbage disposal. I like to do that. It makes it smell so fresh and clean. Sometimes I'll even run some baking soda down my garbage disposal with the lemon peels. This is so good. The first time I had this, I was pretty young, but I remember thinking the ingredients together were kind of odd. Like, I think of using Worcestershire sauce in beef dishes, but it is so good with chicken. My mom, I think she found this recipe at Winco used to, I don't know if they still do, they used to do recipe cards in the bulk section that you could take for free. And I want to say my mom found this one there, but I could be wrong. So that was the quickest part of today's prep, to get 2, 4, 6, 8 marinades and like main dishes done. That took me about 30 minutes. I do need to clean up my mess. Plus we got a salad dressing prepped for the rest of the week, which I'm excited about. I do need to clean this up. The first time I ever thought about making a marinade for the freezer, I thought it was kind of a waste of time, but it is not a waste of time. The reason I find it helpful is for a couple reasons. One, it gives me a jumping off point. If I don't know what to make for dinner, I can go look in my freezer and see what I have. And two, I usually don't think in the morning to marinate something. And so if I pull 1 or 2 of these out of my freezer, it can just sit in my refrigerator and marinate for a day or 2 until I get to it. And then it's nice and marinated and it tastes delicious, and I throw it on my grill and we have a very easy dinner. I always wash these in my dishwasher after use. And here we go. Here are, I probably shouldn't carry those all like that, but I'm gonna spill them. 8 dinners.
I got all of the ingredients put away. I got the countertop clean yet again, and now it's time to go ahead and do the big project of packaging everything up. So the first thing I'm doing for these 2 bags is I'm putting the temperature and the time to bake these frozen cookies. I have tried cooking a couple of these cookies from frozen and they are delicious, but the texture is a little bit crunchier. So if you bake this particular recipe from fresh, then they come out super chewy on the inside and just a little crunchy on the outside, which is how I prefer cookies. And I have found myself, after baking these cookies from frozen, is they get a little bit crunchier, which I know some people prefer that. So just something to note. I will absolutely make this cookie dough recipe again because it had this delicious flavor of the nuttiness from the brown butter and then the nuttiness from the wheat flour that we fresh milled, and it was just they're absolutely delicious. And here I'm packaging up the blueberries and the McGriddle muffins. Again, 1 bag for myself, 1 bag for my sister-in-law. And now here's the big job. The big job is to individually wrap each one of these burritos. And so I am going to go ahead and do that. I'm using some plastic wrap here, but you could also use parchment paper if you wanted. You do not have to individually wrap them. I just had the thought right now as I'm talking to you. For myself, what I probably could have done is put them in just a freezer bag and not individually wrap them, because I know we'll go through these relatively quickly. And then just pulled them out as needed and put them in like a freezer container or something, or some sort of something to let them thaw in the refrigerator overnight. But for the ones for my sister-in-law, I'm definitely going to individually wrap them just because it's more convenient. But I'll have to think that through for myself, because the reason I like them individually wrapped is because when I pull them out of the freezer, I like to be able to pop them in the refrigerator and thaw. And it's just really nice if they're individually wrapped. It does take a bit more time. And so I'm going to have to think through that, because if I could save myself some time and not have to individually wrap them and then not use the plastic wrap, that would both be a bonus, but I'll have to think that through. But for now, on this night, I am individually wrapping each one of these items. I do have some AirPods in and I'm listening to something. I have no idea what I'm listening to at this point, but this did take me quite a bit of time to get these all individually wrapped. But I definitely want to make sure that they're safe and protected in the freezer. Now, I only wrap them once. I don't put them in a freezer bag after I wrap them, just because I know that these items in particular are hot commodities in my house. And so I'm not worried about them getting freezer burned, because we'll go through them before that is even a worry. The only reason that these would ever have a chance of getting freezer burned in my freezer is if one fell behind something and we forgot about it. But they're just so good that I don't have to really worry about that, because they just get enjoyed before that's even a problem. Now, when I was doing this, I was telling you earlier that I had all these other ideas of what I would want to do for different like flavor profiles. And I definitely am going to experiment with more flavor profiles next time I make breakfast sandwiches. But at this point, I am just grateful to have a bunch of meal prep done. And I'm going to go ahead and get some dishes in the dishwasher and get my dishwasher going. The dishwasher was unloaded halfway through this cooking day. It took basically 2 loads of dishes, just so you kind of have context of how many dishes I used for this particular cooking day. Halfway through, I ran the dishwasher, and then here is the second load that is going to be run. So basically 2 loads, and then you'll see a sink full of dirty dishes as well that need to be hand washed. So I'm just getting this loaded up. It feels really good. I am very tired at this point in the day. This did take quite a bit of time, but I know it's going to be worth it. The following weekend, so this big cooking day happened on Wednesday. I don't really have to do much cooking. You'll see what we cook the following day, how we turn one of these freezer meals into a full meal. But over the weekend, I didn't have to do any real cooking. So what that did is it gave me time to experiment with sourdough. And I ended up making 3 loaves of sourdough just to experiment with different recipes and different fresh milled flour. And it just gave me time to kind of experiment and do something fun in the kitchen because I didn't have to think about what my family was going to eat for dinner.
We did it. Oh my goodness. So this is what we got. We got $2 billion spaghettis. We got 2 Cajun mac and cheeses, 2 smashed chickens, 2 creamy Italian chickens, 2 ranch chickens, 2 honey mustard chickens, and then that's what these are, but these are for me. I don't even remember. I counted these up. I think there was 16, 21, and 21, I don't know. Burritos, bean and cheese burritos with rice. Our English muffins, egg McMuffins. There's no meat, just egg in this. Our ham and cheese. Our McGriddle muffins, our blueberry muffins, which both of these have already had quite a few eaten. Our cookies, all the cookies I baked already have been consumed. They are a huge hit. And then the waffles that I'm just gonna throw in the freezer. I realized when I re-looked through my list that there was one thing that I did not get to today. And that was, I was gonna make some chicken tenders so that I could throw those in the air fryer. I am not doing that. I got the kitchen basically clean. I do need to sweep and mop. Probably Josh will do that tonight. This is what my sink looks like. I'm not gonna wash those by hand. There's no way. I have my dishwasher going. Normally when I do a big cooking day like this, I will throw one of these items in the oven for dinner, but I made a lasagna last night. So we're gonna have lasagna for dinner, and then I will make up a salad with the creamy Italian dressing, which will be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to that. My sister-in-law is going to get at least half the waffles, half the cookie dough, half of each of the muffins, half of the breakfast stuff and the burritos, and then the $1 billion spaghetti. And if she, oh, I almost forgot this. This is our, oh my gosh, there's 2 other things. I didn't think like this was that much for how long we spent in the kitchen. We have our cranberry jalapeno meatballs in here, which I have another bag in the freezer in a Ziploc bag for my sister-in-law. So this is mine, those are gonna be hers. And these are gonna be just for me to throw in the air fryer, I think, for lunches. I almost forgot our kind of Mediterranean-inspired beef patties. These I'm gonna throw on the grill. I think we're actually gonna have these for dinner tomorrow. I threw these in the freezer so that they would flash freeze. And the reason I did this is I like to vacuum seal these. I have found that these with beef patties, if I make some sort of fancy burger or something like that, they do way better if they're vacuum sealed. And I'm gonna ask Josh if he'd be willing to do that for me, because vacuum sealing, for some reason, is not my favorite thing to do. But how I packaged up the rest of these, that's my dishwasher, is how they store really well. And honestly, a lot of this stuff is gonna be gone relatively quickly because Josh is going to devour those breakfast bagel sandwiches. And it's just so good. All of it's so good. I'm really excited about having some meals prepped again, because like I said, it's been a while since I've done this, other than we've had a ton of marinated meats in the freezer, and I had been working on going through those before I made any more. And I know that 2 of these are our favorites, and 2 of them I think are gonna become some of our new favorites. So I'm gonna go ahead and just throw all of this in the freezer, and we will enjoy it. So friend, thank you so much for being here as we prepped all these meals. The recipes will be linked down below if you're interested in watching more videos, meal prep videos. I will pop some videos here you can go enjoy between now and my next upload. If you're new, please consider subscribing if you enjoyed this, because we do stuff like this on a regular basis. We don't just do freezer meals, we do dinner parties, we do some organizing, we do a lot of gardening in the summer, and we have a lot of fun. So thank you for being here, thank you for being you, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friends.